So, like I said, I'm Rachel, and tonight I'm going to be sharing with you 3 secrets to transform your counseling program so you can increase your impact and get the recognition that you deserve. So, I'm going to show you how you can make a transformation in your counseling program in 3 key areas. This way, you can go from feeling overwhelmed and stretched too thin to feeling stress free while having a maximum impact and impacting so many students. But I want to ask you to take a minute and turn off any distractions. So you've committed to this time for yourself to learn and improve your counseling program, and that's so awesome. So if you have any babies or fur babies in the room, try to go to a different quiet place if you can. I know my son's downstairs with his nanny, so it's easier if you're kind of in a different space so you can focus. Or, turn off the TV, close out those other tabs that you may have open, silence your phone, and give this your full attention, because if you do, then I promise you're going to walk away with some strategies you can implement tomorrow. But first, before we dive into my 3 secrets, I want to give you a quick win right off the bat. And this is my 5-minute color code challenge. So this is a simple tool you can use to take control of your schedule in 5 minutes. So what is a color code challenge? Well, you're simply going to assign colors to the following categories. Now, this is a screenshot of my Google Calendar. I love a digital calendar. I used to be a paper planner kind of girl with like a Lily Pulitzer big hardbound one, but I have over the years migrated to all things digital, and I just love it. So one thing I love about it is the easy way you can color code everything. So let's take a peek at my calendar here. What I do is I assign colors to the following categories. This way I can get an idea of what my day looks like at a simple glance. So first category is reoccurring events. So anything you have like lunch duty, maybe you have like a recess duty or a meeting every week at the same time. All of those things have the same color for. Then I have my individual student sessions. So any students that you're seeing individually, use the same color for them, but differentiate by name. So for example, it would say individual : Rachel or individual : Marin. This way I can see just by looking at the day, oh, I have 5 individuals today. And then if you want to look closer, you can see their names and more details. Then small groups. Now, small groups, I like to give each group a different color based on topic. So you can color code these any way you wish. For example, it's kind of stereotypical, but I like to use a red one for anger management, or purple for social skills, yellow, friendship, green, growth mindset. There's no color specifically you need to use, but it's just a great way that at a glance you can kind of see when you have your groups. And then class lessons. So similarly to the individual students, I'll have SEL : teacher's last name. So for example, SEL : Watkins, or class lesson : Watkins. So this simple organization hack allows you to feel in control of your schedule at a glance. So doesn't this sound nice and doable? At the beginning of the day, you can look and kind of mentally prepare for what's ahead just by having color code. So I hope you found that helpful. Now, I want to talk to you because you took a lot of time out of your busy schedule to be with me here tonight, and I so appreciate that. And I wanted to let you know that you're in the right place. You're in the right place if you're ready to stop putting out fires and to finally take control of your schedule. Or if you're motivated to maximize your productivity so you can reach more students. Or if you're curious on how you can use more data to advocate for your position. So tell me in the comments, which one are you? Why are you here tonight? Are you ready to stop putting out fires and take control of your schedule, number 1? Or are you, number 2, motivated to be more productive so you can impact more students? Or number 3, are you curious how you can use data to advocate for your position? All right, I'm seeing a lot of people said all of the above, all 3. Nicole said 2 and 3. Anna said fires. Kristen, all 3. Chelsea, all 3. Sally wants to be more productive. Leanne said all of them. She's a new counselor. Amazing. Christy said data, but everything. Fires for Amanda, all 3. Data. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of all 3s. Let's see. First year counselor Emily. Karen said all of the above, but an intern, so I need the data to advocate for a future position. Amazing. And I'm so glad you're here. If you're an intern or a new counselor, we actually had some interns on the call last night as well. I love that you guys are go-getters. Whatever your reason is that you're here, I am with you 100%, and you totally got this. So let me tell you a little bit about me before we get started. So you may know me if you've been following me over on Instagram, but this is a picture of my family. So that's my husband, Grant, and that's our son, Marin. He's 1 year, 3 months. So I've always told myself I would never be one of those people who said their baby's name in the amount of months, because I can personally never do the math in my head. So if someone's like, oh, they're 34 months old, I'm always like, what? So 1 year, 3 months. That's Marin. In the middle picture there, oh, thank you, Nicole. We live in Costa Rica, like I said. So this is a beautiful sunset. We try not to miss a sunset. And then in the picture on the right, this is me way back in 2015. You can probably tell by the grainy iPhone quality there. But this was before my first day of school at my new counseling job. I was working as an elementary school counselor at public schools in San Diego area. And this is one of those heart hug pillows from IKEA. When I was in grad school, one of my professors had one in my group facilitation class, and we practiced with it. And I knew I wanted them for my office. So I went to IKEA, got them, loved them. The kids loved them too. They were really fun for feelings check. But, then we had like some lice issues and had to get rid of them. You probably know how that goes. And who am I to be qualified to teach you tonight? Well, I have over 8 years working in counseling and education. I'm the host of a highly rated school counseling podcast called School Counseling Simplified. So if you haven't checked us out yet, I would love for you to listen. I've been designing curriculum and resources for thousands of school counselors since 2016, and I've been doing so on my blog and at my TPT store, Bright Futures Counseling. And I help over 18,000 counselors with my weekly newsletter. So if you're not on my email newsletter, I would love for you to join us over there as well. We can talk about that later. Haley wants to move to Costa Rica. Yes, that'd be amazing. Oh, Lily's from PLNU. No way. Oh, you're the one from Escondido. That's so awesome. Yep, that was my graduation. And Olivia said she's in her last semester of grad school and graduating this December. So exciting. Congratulations. But I'm mainly qualified to be teaching you here tonight because I know how you feel, because I have been there. I went from feeling overwhelmed as a school counselor to feeling stress-free. So can you imagine, I want you to think, can you imagine what it's like to not stress about your job while knowing that you're reaching more students than ever before and that your position is finally valued? If you can imagine what that's like, comment with a yes. I would love to see. Tinel said yes. Karen, yes. Nicole, yes. Zulika, I hope I'm pronouncing your names correctly. Yes. Charmaine, yes. Carrie, yes. Elizabeth, no. LOL. I know, it is hard to imagine, right? Well, maximizing your productivity through scheduling, organization, and data collection is the solution to impacting more students than ever before and finally getting the recognition that you deserve. So let me tell you where we're going. I'm going to start by sharing my 3 secrets with you. So first up is the secret to creating a stress-free counseling schedule. Then I'll share with you my secret organization strategy to maximize your productivity, followed by a secret data collection tool to make you feel like a boss. Then I'll share how you can work with me. And finally, I'll answer any questions that you have in a live Q&A. So if you have any questions, you can save them to the end, or you can write them in the chat. I may get to them as I'm presenting, or we can come back to them at the end. Okay, let's dive in these secrets. First up, the secret to creating a stress-free schedule is to establish a crisis response team protocol. Now, you may be thinking, what is a crisis response team protocol? Well, a crisis response team protocol divvies up the responsibility of responding to crises to a group of specialists. This way, you, the counselor, aren't the only one responsible for putting out fires. So I know a few of you said you could relate to that constantly putting out fires and being stretched too thin feeling. This is for you. So let's talk about the terminology a bit to clarify. So we have the team and then we have the protocol. So the team consists of people who can help when a student is in crisis. So some potential team members could be specialists like the school psychologist, the principal, maybe an instructional coach, a SLP, behavior specialist. I want you to think about people in those specialty roles. Not that a teacher wouldn't be great at this, but teachers typically have more of a strict schedule and wouldn't be able to assist with this. So what it is, the protocol determines who's going to be responsible for doing what at which time. So you're going to map out the day and assign different people different times that they're responsible for. This is going to be when they're on call if a crisis occurs. And then you can color coordinate your calendar to indicate who has which shift. So let's take a look at what it looks like in action. So here's a day, and you can see here it's color coordinated depending on who's responsible for responding to a crisis during that time. So you, the counselor, are there at noon, and you're in that peach color. Then you can see the school psych has the morning shift. The principal has 2 shifts, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. The behavior specialist has a shift, and the speech language pathologist has a shift. So what would happen is if a student's having a crisis, you know the feeling, right? Someone is having a crisis and you're in the middle of a small group, but you get a call on your walkie-talkie and they're like, hey, counselor, someone's having a meltdown. We could really use your help. So you're like, oh, what do I do? In the group early and go? And you flee your group and you head there because you have to respond to the crisis, right? Not necessarily. This is a better solution. What you could do instead is have designated times to divvy up the responsibility. So let's say a crisis happens at 9 a.m. Well, you check the schedule. Oh, that's when the school psych is on call. They respond to the crisis. This allows you to continue with any small groups, individual sessions, or class lessons that you already have committed to. If it occurs during your time, that's when you respond. Now, you may be thinking, well, there's not a crisis every day, and I certainly hope there's not. Some of your schools, perhaps. But if it's a day that you don't have a crisis, you may be thinking, what do I do during that time? You're just simply on call, and you can use that time to catch up on some lesson planning, send some emails, or just take a lunch break. Now, there are a few things to consider. So first, you want to stay flexible and treat this on a case-by-case basis. So you could sub out who responds depending on their relationship with the child. So what I mean by that is, let's say that you've been seeing a student for individual counseling for 6 weeks, and you know them really well. You know their background and their family situation. And let's say that your time is that noon time. Well, that student's having a crisis at 9 a.m. And that's the time when the librarian is supposed to respond. Well, if they don't have a close relationship with the librarian, or maybe they don't even know the librarian very well, it would be better for you to step in. So I'm not saying you're not going to be there for certain kids, but this is just a general protocol you can refer to on normal days. And get creative with team members. So this one's so fun. We actually used the custodian at one of my schools, Mr. Art. He knew everyone. All the kids knew him by name, and they were always talking to him at lunch and everything. So he had a great relationship with the kids. So he was someone we wanted to be on our crisis response team. So get creative and think about people at your school who would be a good fit for this role. Let's see, we have a couple comments here. Cindy says, totally proposing this to school. Yes. Can you imagine how easy this would be and how this would really help you with your scheduling? Dahlia said, I'm having this in school and it works out quite well. Oh, amazing. You're already doing it. Nicole loves the idea. So everything I'm teaching you tonight will help you impact more students and get the recognition you deserve. So let's talk about how. How does this help more students? Well, not only are you ensuring that the student in crisis is getting the help that they need, but you're certain that you're not going to miss out on any scheduled class lessons, small groups, or individual sessions. And this advocates for your position because you get to appear more reliable and responsible by keeping your commitments to students and teachers. You've likely been there. I know my first year, I was late to a class lesson because I was responding to a crisis, and the teacher was very upset and disappointed with me. And then she was like, I don't want to do any more lessons. I looked flaky. I was all stressed. She didn't know where I was coming from or what was happening before. But in her eyes, I was just being unreliable, right? So your turn. I want you to jump in the comments and tell me an idea of who could be on your crisis response team. Maria said she's already feeling stress-free. I love it, right? Yeah, I think this is going to be like a really doable idea you guys can start implementing soon. Kylie, school social worker. That is a great one. School resource officer. Yes, Kristen, that's a good one. Blanca said paraprofessional. Another great option. School resource officer. Yes, if you have one, that's great. PE teacher, librarian, receptionist, nurse, librarian. Oh, the librarian used to be the counselor at Haley School. That's perfect. SPED team, safety officer. Yes, there are so many. A PBIS coach. That's excellent. And then as part of the protocol, so once you determine who's on your team, then you can establish the protocol. And that's going to vary at every school, but you're going to sit down with the team and you're going to determine who's going to do what when and what the order of operations is or what the protocol is. So maybe there needs to be some training in place before this occurs. Let's see here. I'm seeing a few comments. I'm going to scroll back up here. Someone had a question. I don't know how this would work. We have several crises all day, Michelle said. Yes. So, it's just supposed to help the situation. The bigger the team, the better, because then you can spread out the duty. You could even have like a on-call person who's kind of like a backup. They're not on the daily schedule, but if there happens to be two crises at the same time, they're kind of like the person who jumps in to assist. Let's see here. I'm seeing the receptionist or front office person. That's a great person because they usually are like the first face you see when you walk in the door. They usually have a lot of background on the families and they know the kids. School social worker, head of the school principal, 3 of them. Yeah, and if you have a team of counselors, that's ideal, right? Multiple counselors can divvy up the day. When I created this, I was the only counselor. Dean, social worker, would a PE coach be a good suggestion? Yeah, absolutely. Get creative. I mean, anyone can really do this. I would say anyone except the teachers. The teachers are going to be a little harder because they have a stricter schedule. So I love this. Nicole likes the idea to make shifts. Jennifer, do you have any suggestions for cranky union employees that will say this is outside of their contractual duties? Yes. So I would start by talking with your principal and figuring out, you two could brainstorm who some potential team people could be, and then, maybe ask for volunteers and then go from there. You may be surprised. I think everyone has, a heart and desire to help the kids, but we just need to present it in a way to get them on board. Let's see here. And our principals will say, we are much too busy. Yeah, it is a challenge. Let's see. I'm interested in how non-counselors will respond to crisis, what the protocol will be, and what their roles will be. Yes, like I mentioned, you would want to do a little training in advance. Will you discuss what the role looks like when someone other than the counselor is addressing a crisis? So I'm seeing a lot of questions on this. Basically, I wanted to introduce the idea of the team to you, but the protocol is something you're going to have to get together with your team to develop as a school site on what you're going to do. So are they just going to help the student with some coping strategies until someone who's more trained can relieve them? That's an idea. Or you could train them to, respond to the crises. But I think the basic level here is to equip everyone on the team with an understanding of how to review some basic coping strategies so they can de-escalate the situation until someone more qualified can step in. Okay, awesome. So a lot of questions there. I want to move on. Let's see. Establishing a crisis response team protocol allows you to feel less scattered and more in control, which makes you feel calm and confident to best serve your students. And that's how we want to show up every day. I will answer. Let's see. Michelle here said, we have myself and another counselor in the afternoons, principal and vice principal, and we still don't have enough hands. How do we encourage others to help? I would just present the idea, perhaps at a staff meeting. Like I said, try to get signups voluntarily at first. And then if you're still having a lot of resistance there, you could brainstorm with your principal on how to pitch the idea to some specialist. Okay, moving right along. Let's get into secret number 2. My secret organization strategy to maximize your productivity is to create a caseload spreadsheet. So before you check out and think spreadsheets are boring, I have to share this with you. My caseload spreadsheet is how I keep track of all the individuals and small group students that I'm seeing. I like to use Google Sheets for this. So you could use Excel or you could even do a paper version, but I really encourage you to use Google Sheets because it's free. You have those sharing capabilities so you can access it across devices and share it with other people if you need to. Amanda loves spreadsheets. So do I. So let's talk about what it looks like in action. So here's an example of mine. So we'll go through column by column. Now, it's kind of 2 sections. The first 5 columns here are identifying factors. So things like the student's name, their teacher, their grade level, their area of need, so what they're seeing you for, the counseling type. So this is whether they're seeing you in a group or individually. And then after that, those are the identifying factors. The second part here is more of a checklist. So this is where you're tracking if you've received the referral, who you received the referral from. So under there, you could write, did you get it from a parent? Did the student self-refer? Did their teacher refer them? And then it's a checklist of sorts. Did you contact the parent? Have you sent home a permission slip? Have you received the permission slip? Have you contacted the teacher to find out the best time to meet with the student? Have you scheduled the sessions in your calendar? So you could write yes or no. You could even insert those check boxes to make it a little easier. So if you look at some examples here, you'll notice that I have different colors. So the reason for that is I like to use colors to sort the groups. because, again, I love to color coordinate because at a glance, you can kind of see who's with what. Because you may be forming your groups, but then someone gets added, a week or two later. So then if you use the same color, you can still see that they're in the same group as those students. Now, I want to share some tips for creating your caseload spreadsheet. So like I mentioned, I like to use the different colors to indicate small groups. And then I like to use an asterisk or star if I'm seeing them both individually and in a group. This way, if you're collecting data later on, you're not going to accidentally double count them. So sometimes you may see a student individually, so you would just leave that, the white color. And then if you're seeing them in a group, you would add the color there. So how does this spreadsheet help you impact more students? Well, you're going to ensure that no one slips through the cracks. So this best serves all your students. This has happened to me before when I was first starting out, where the principal would say, "Hey, what's going on with that one student? Did you receive a permission slip back from their parents yet?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know." And then I go dig in my folder and I have 50 permission slips in there and they're all not categorized alphabetically, and it's really difficult. Or if you get a referral, maybe you get a verbal referral from a teacher while you're walking from lunch to a class lesson, and you're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'll make a note of it." Then you simply forget, right? This is a way for you to have a tab and almost like a status update on all students that you're seeing in your caseload, so you can know if someone asks you exactly what the status is of that student. And that's how you advocate for your position, helping you to get the recognition that you deserve. You can quickly answer the status of their services, which makes your admin and your teachers see how valuable your services are. Don't you see how powerful this tool can be? So I want you to think about how you can use this at your school. So tell me in the comments, how could this organization spreadsheet best help you? Do you think it could, 1, help you keep track of permission slips, 2, help you form small groups, or 3, keep track of parent contact? So as you put your answers in, I'll go back and answer a couple questions up here. Let's see. Haley gave up on her paper spreadsheet after a week. Yes, paper can be overwhelming. Definitely need this. Yes, because then you can move the students around. And I had someone ask last night on the call, what do you do if you have completed like your 8 weeks with them? So what I recommend is you can have tabs there at the bottom, and you can just copy paste, move them to the completed tab. That way you don't want to delete it, so you can count this for data when you're tracking services provided, which we'll get to in my data tracking tip. Cindy says, I need to keep a record of each meeting, each session, each communication. Can it somehow be integrated into this? Yes. So this is the caseload spreadsheet. So when I say your caseload, now remember, as a school counselor, you're responsible for delivering that tier 1 class lesson intervention to all students at your school. But if you have 700 kiddos at your school, I don't want you writing all 700 of them here. This spreadsheet is just for those groups and individual students that you're seeing. So if you're seeing them in a group, if you've received a referral, you're seeing them in group or individual, they're on this sheet. Now, Cindy, I think what you're referring to is more of a counseling log. That's where you're tracking when you're seeing the kids, what you're working on, and parent communication. So I use another spreadsheet for this. I can share that with you later, an example of what that would look like at the end of this. Just remind me and I can send you an example. But basically, that's what I call my counseling log. I also do it on Google Sheets. And you can have those like together in a counseling hub of sorts. But this is just the caseload spreadsheet where you're keeping track on who you're seeing and the status update of them. Angela asked, how is this applied at the high school level? Well, I think it would be applied the same way. So any students that you're seeing individually or in small groups, you would have, those identifying factors, their name, their teacher, their grade level, the reason you're seeing them. And then you're, keeping tabs on if you're seeing them in individual or group, if you've gotten permission for them, things like that. So let's see what you guys are thinking, how it could best help you. So we've got tracking. Yes, tracking permission slips. Chelsea said forming small groups. Amanda said forming small groups. Yeah, it's great for forming small groups because you'll start to see, when it's in this nice organized fashion, you can see, oh, look, I have a lot of individual referrals all over the same topic. Maybe these students would do well in a group together. And groups are great because they save you time, right? Back to scheduling. You can, make an impact and see more students at one time if they have a similar area of need. Leanne said all. Kendra thinks it would help her keep track of permission slips. Brandy said all 3. Leanne loves it. Yes, good. I love it too. Nicole said all 3 and more. Yes. Leanne already made one. Perfect. I love this. All 3. Parent contact. Absolutely. Patricia says she loves using spreadsheets for keeping track of individuals and groups, especially keeping track of verbal referrals. I mean, you can get as fancy as you want. If you do digital, like a Google form, permission slip or referral form, you could even link to those in here. Like you could keep it all digital. Alyssa, all 3+ help staff realize how busy I am. Yeah, but seriously, that's how we advocate for our role, right? You're showing them this is how many students I'm serving. And we're going to get to that in my next tip. But let's see what you guys are saying. I'm so glad you're loving this. Tammy said, I enter each session into a Google form, then I can import to a spreadsheet. Okay. But the spreadsheet changes every time I see another student. Do I need a separate SS from this? So I'm a little confused. You're saying you enter each session into a Google form. So I think what you're talking about is your sessions, those would be logged on like a counseling log. That's where you're going to track how often you're seeing the students and when you're seeing them. This is just a general who you're seeing. So this isn't necessarily when you're seeing them. Don't think of this as sessions. Think of this as students. Emily said number 3, awesome. Nicole, I tend to look for all the components on the spreadsheet and have to go through so many papers to find what I'm looking for. I like this because everything is in one place, easy and quick access. Yes, absolutely. That's why I do it too. And if you're still on a paper model, that's fine. Like if you get a paper permission slip, check it off on your thing and then stick it in a file folder. So you don't have to go completely digital. You can still have some paper forms, but you're not like wrestling through things to find them. You have it right there. Cindy thinks it's brilliant. I love it. Yep, you can. Maria's asking, she might use this to track all referrals and how I triage thoughts. Yeah, absolutely. So if you're trying to determine, you have a limited amount of time on when you can see students, you can track the referrals. What I would recommend to make the most of your time is if the students aren't a, super individualized need, I would try to form groups so you could, serve more students. Tanya's asking for the counseling log. Okay. Yes. At the end of this presentation, I will share an example of the counseling log. Good. I'm glad you all want to see it. I should have added that to this presentation. Nicole said group saved her life. Definitely. Tammy said she's already keeping a log. Catherine, do you use a particular template for the spreadsheet? So I have just created this one. I'll share later how you can access the templates I have for things like this. Patricia says she has a counseling log as well. And one for frequent flyers, Tammy's mentioning. Yes, I love it. Well, let's move along into that third secret I have for you. And that is how to use data to make you feel like a boss. This is my end of the year report. Now you might be thinking, Rachel, it's September. Why am I thinking about the end of the year report? I want you to begin with the end in mind. The data you're collecting now, you're going to use on this report at the end of the year to show how awesome your services are. So an end of the year report is a report that you create at the end of the year to show how many students you served, how many class lessons you taught, and even how much time you spent with the students. And why would you do this? Well, it's a great way to reflect on your program's progress and show all of your hard work. So you've been collecting data all year long. So this is why I want to talk about it now at the beginning of the school year. So you can start collecting that data. Then at the end of the year, you can showcase this to your stakeholders, like your principal, parents, school board. You can show them what's working and even what's not working. Now, sometimes counselors are nervous to collect data, or maybe the reason they've been kind of avoiding doing it is because they're afraid that their services have been ineffective. And I want to tell you, do not worry about this. Even if the data shows us that what you're doing is not working, that is okay. It's actually good because it's helpful. And then we can determine how we can modify services to best fit student needs. Now, let me show you what this looks like in action. So here's an example of a template that I have. So the first page there, you'll have your school's name, the year, a little intro statement about what this report is. I like to talk about how my counseling program aligns with my school's mission statement. Then I have the school at a glance. So I have a website linking to the school, talking about our enrollment numbers, the grade levels that we're serving, who the counselor is, who the principal is. And then you can even add a photo of your school. You can add your school colors, logo, mascot. You can make this as cute or, official as you want it to be. But I love on that first page to pull out some fun stats, some eye-grabbing stats to catch their attention. So things you could have on there like the number of class lessons that you taught, the number of students you served in small groups, the number of individual students that you saw, the number of times or the number of students you saw every week. Then as you dig deeper into the report, so you'll see here I have an individual counseling section. So there I'll talk about how students are selected for individual counseling, that it's a referral-based process. Then I'll include some referral data. So I'll talk about the numbers, how many students were referred by a parent, how many were referred by their teacher. Then I like to share some statistics on the amount of individual students, the percentage they make up of my caseload. So maybe it would say 60% of my caseload's individual students. And how you get that number is, let's say that you see 100 students in both groups and individually. And if 60 of those students were seen individually, well, that's 60% of your caseload was spent with individual students. Then I have the same thing for small groups. I'll talk about the number of groups that I did, the number of weeks we met, the number of students in each group. You can also include things like character lessons or SEL lessons that you're providing, parent trainings or workshops, school-wide activities that you're hosting, any clubs that you're doing, any special trainings that you went to, conferences that you attended, anything like that. Now, here's a couple tips. When you're creating this, I want you to think of two things. They both start with SP, so I like using letters to help me remember things, like mnemonic devices. So the first one is the services provided. So services provided, this is data where you're going to show how many numbers of students that you've seen, how many lessons you taught, how many groups you led, how many individual students you saw. These are showing the amount of services that you provided. This data is. The second part of data is student progress. That's the other SP, student progress. So that's where you're going to show how the students have changed from your counseling services and hopefully benefited. But again, even if they haven't benefited, that data is beneficial as well. So this is where you'll show any graphs or charts that demonstrate how your students have changed since they've started counseling services with you. So to do this, you would collect this data by doing things like self-assessments, a pre-test, post-test you would send to kiddos, and then you could assess how they've learned, the objectives that you had with them. So how does this impact more students? Well, by collecting data to assess student needs, you can see what's working well and what's not. You can then modify your counseling program to best serve all students. And this helps advocate for your position to get the recognition that you deserve. An end-of-the-year report is the ultimate self-advocating tool. This is a chance where you can brag on yourself and show the need for your program. And you may be thinking, oh, I don't like that idea that I'm like self-serving, bragging about myself. I don't feel comfortable doing that. But you're not. You're advocating for the profession as a whole and why your school needs a counseling program. And you're showing what a great impact it's had on the school. Now, when you're doing these services provided, you can also track your non-counselor duties, and you can show your admin the percentage of time that you're using on non-counselor things. And that's a great way to impact more students because they may not be aware of this. And you can say, hey, I want to use that time to run a small group instead of doing this non-counseling task that I've been assigned. So let's see what you guys are saying. I'm seeing a lot of buzz in the chat. I love it. Let's see here. Okay, where did I leave off here? Amanda, I'm a crisis counselor for, 2,700 students among 5 campuses. That's crazy. So I made a Google Sheet with one tab of my regulars, one tab of my check-ins once in a while, and one tab with ones I've seen once. Oh, I think you're referring to the Caseload spreadsheet. That's awesome. That sounds like a great system. Rachel said, I like the idea of having a Google form for small group permission forms. Any examples to share? I think I have an example of a digital permission slip. Again, we can share things like this at the end of the presentation. Just remind me. Nicole loves this. Her district is very data rich. That's incredible. Let's see. Annette, would you include student work? Nicole, can you elaborate on that? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that question. Annette said, when do you have the opportunity to fill out your spreadsheet? Do you do this to wrap up your week? So Annette, are you referring to like a counseling log spreadsheet, or are you referring to the data spreadsheet? No, I did want to share, this is the end of the year report that I'm talking about, and I love this tool. But again, if you're collecting all this data now and you may be pumped on the data that you have and you're like, I don't want to wait till the end of the year to start advocating, you can do like a bulletin board or a data wall outside of your office, or if you're virtual, you can do it on your school website to show parents and teachers and your admin the incredible things that you're doing. So it could say something like, what's new in the counseling program? And it could say like, this month we're running these groups. These are the number of lessons we're doing. These are the students I'm serving, kind of like a little free sample of the data. That's a really fun way to share your program. Patricia said, love the idea of including conferences and such. Yeah, that's a lot of time that you're investing, right? Yeah, it's great for showing you are growing as a professional. So again, you're going to get a PD certificate at the end of this training. You could show that. Nicole schedules a period for clerical. Yes, so if you're, I think you're referring to like tracking those non-counselor duties, definitely. Amanda said, whenever I'm doing my Google form documenting my interventions, I make sure to add that new name to my Google Sheet or I'll forget. I'm more of a paper person, but doing all this in Google has made me much more organized so far this year. Yes. So I absolutely love using Google Forms, Google Sheets. Olivia, when you run groups with students, when do you typically run these groups? During the students' lunchtime? At my internship, we do lunch bunch groups during lunchtime. But by the time the students get their lunch, we hardly have any time to run our group session. That is a challenge that I have faced as well, Olivia, with lunch bunch. What I do is, like when I'm doing that caseload spreadsheet, I'll contact the teacher and I'll say, hey, this student's been referred to counseling for social skills. I want to do a social skills group. When's the best day or day and time for me to see them? So they may be missing some class time. But of course, this is, a skill that we view as almost equally important. It's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that they first need to have their social needs met before they can be able to function at the academic level. So you want to make sure to communicate that if you're getting a little pushback from students and or parents. But so if you have, 5 teachers, coordinate with them. It is challenging, but if you have students who are the same grade level or even the same teacher, that helps when you're trying to coordinate. Nicole said, I'm so doing this. It's pretty impressive, even for you to see what you've done. It is. And it's, like I said, you're going to be proud. And that's why I encourage you to do like those little sample data updates before the end of the year, because you're going to be pumped when you see your awesome results. Maria said, what are some other ways to measure progress, especially for IEP goals? I love the pre-post test. Yes. So my main things that I do, I always like to do student self-assessments because this is the student's view of how they've progressed. Now, in addition to that, so for example, a question on a self-assessment could be like, I can name 5 coping skills, and then they can try to name them before the sessions, and they may, pre-counseling, they may not be able to name any coping skills, or maybe they only know one, or maybe they know an unhealthy one. But then hopefully by the time counseling's over, they can name 5 healthy coping skills. So that's an example of how you could measure a pre-post test. I also like to send out behavior progress monitoring forms. So those are forms I send to parents and teachers where they can answer regarding the student's behavior. And then you can track how their behavior has changed. And it's nice to do them at school and at home to see if the behavior is different at home and school. And I mentioned that I had a data freebie for you that I'll be sharing at the end of this presentation, and sneak peek, it's one of those. Annette said data overall. Tammy is agreeing with Olivia about lunch and recess. Yeah, it can be tricky. If you do pull from lunch or recess, you want to make it pretty engaging so they're not bummed out. Wendy bought my end of the year data report last year and it was awesome. Oh, good. Thank you. I'm so glad. She works at 2 elementary schools and her principals were so impressed. I love it. The first year I did this, I sent it to my principal, and then they even sent it to the superintendent, and she personally reached out to me in an email to thank me, which as a first-year counselor, I was like, it was starstruck. It was awesome. And I just felt so pumped and so seen and valued. It was amazing. Haley loves the wall idea. A lot of teachers don't understand what we do. Exactly. Nor do parents. And Nicole asked, for example, in your end of the year report, would you include lessons you've done and maybe sample of student work that may have been done as a result of an activity done in your lesson? And yeah, you could include student work. I haven't done that. I would list like the lesson topics or the topics, and then for what you've been working on with the student as well. And then I like to use, so if you do your self-assessments in Google Forms, if you click the results tab, it auto-populates pie graphs for you, and you can screenshot some of those and put them in there to have some pretty graphs. So it could say like, 60%, well, hopefully higher than that, 80% of group students are now able to name 5 coping skills. But Nicole's saying especially for your at-risk students. Yeah, I mean, this is completely customizable. That's just an example of what I've done in the past, but you can definitely get as, creative or as detailed as you want with this, whatever you think would best represent the data at your school. Catherine said, I just did a Google survey that all my teachers did. I asked them to give me 4 times in a week that I can pull kids and or do a small group. It's been so awesome because now I have a complete schedule worked out that works for each grade. Oh, that's genius, Catherine. I love that idea. Perhaps that's a Google survey you could send out, at the beginning of the year when you send out a needs assessment at the same time. Yeah, that's excellent. Great idea. Yes, and Michelle said, how much is the end of the year report? So we'll link to it later. I honestly don't know off the top of my head. I think it's $5, but there's an opportunity for you to get it for free or as an included resource. I'll share a little more about that at the end. I have a lot to share at the end, so y'all have to remind me a couple of these things. Maria said, I want to start a lunch bunch and hope folks will be on board. We're sharing the building and need more space. What are some activities we can do during that time? Students already participate in advisory blocks. So for a lunch bunch, I would do follow any small group curriculum. I don't want to take up too much of your time, so I'm going to move on. I don't want to give too many examples on that right now. But as far as wanting folks to be on board, that's what data is for. If you have data, you can say, look how positively this impacted these students. That's why I want to do more groups. People are going to buy in when they see the numbers, right? It's not an opinion, it's a fact, and the data can show that. And Cindy said, in Australia, we apply for funding and need to motivate it through reporting and records. Exactly. We've been finding this incredibly difficult from the social well-being side, and this will be very valuable. Yes, amazing. That's rad. You're in Australia. I didn't realize that until just now, Cindy. But yes, I absolutely agree. This is how you can communicate it. Like I said, especially for fundings, grant money, more time. If you want more counselors, perhaps your, school has a increase in their budget. I know a lot of schools got an increase in their mental health student services budget due to COVID funding. So this can show the need for your program, and maybe you can even get a new counselor to help relieve you of some of your services. Okay, this is great. Tell me, guys, what are you most proud of? Number 1, the groups led. Number 2, class lessons taught. Or number 3, trainings attended. So let me know in the comments, what data are you most proud of? I know you got some great data. Karen's most proud of her groups that she's led. Leanne, groups led. Angela, 2 and 3. Janelle, 2 and 3. Class lessons. Lessons. A lot of 2s. The class lessons. Yeah, y'all should be proud of those. They're tough. Patricia's a first-year counselor. Most looking forward to group data. Yeah. First year just starting. That's why it's so great you guys are here. I'm so glad if you're a first year and you're here, because you're learning what to do. A lot of people probably went, 1 or 2 years without doing any data because we're so busy. But a lot of counselors are overwhelmed by data, and it's been one of my personal missions to help counselors feel empowered to use data in their programs because it's so powerful. Second year, let's see, nothing yet. Needs assessment. Yeah, needs assessment's a great place to start, Chelsea. I hope to be proud of all 3. Absolutely. So those are my 3 secrets, but I have a question for you. What would you do if you had an extra 5 hours in your work week? So tell me in the comments, because I'm assuming you're stretched pretty thin right now, but if you had an extra 5 hours, so if you're working Monday, Friday, if you had 1 hour a day, what would you do with that time? Michelle said lesson planning. Chelsea said lesson planning. Nicole said a lot. Yeah, that lesson planning, a lot of times we're doing that on nights and weekends, right? Have time to plan and track everything. Getting a lot of lesson planning. Yes, see kids get caught on paperwork. Organize and document. Check in with more students. Positive messages to parents. I love that. More trainings. Organize office. Take time to read all the wonderful articles. Yeah, eat lunch. Yes, right? Well, I'll tell you what I did. I started implementing these systems, and I started leading a club, planning engaging class lessons, and actually taking a lunch break. So I wanted to help with this club, but I used to not have time. Then I was able to. I wanted to plan engaging class lessons, but I used to be stretched too thin, and I would just, grab something last minute off the internet, and it wouldn't be as thoughtful and engaging as I hoped. And I was eating lunch with kids or barely eating lunch at all. But then I started taking a lunch break. So let me ask you another question. Would you like me to help you with scheduling, organization, and data collection strategies so you can have the time and freedom to focus on your passion? Which, if I had to guess, is helping kids. Michelle said, yes. Leanne, yes. Kendra, yes, yes, yes. Chana, yes. Kelly, yes. Brandy, yes. Well, there's a couple options. So option one, you can do what I did. You can try to look up strategies online and combine them with trial and error, but you'll run the risk of not making progress and feeling even more overwhelmed, which can be like paralysis. Or option two, you could commit to transforming your counseling program by following a proven framework. You're invited to join Stress-Free School Counseling. Stress-Free School Counseling is my proven 5-step framework that will help you master scheduling, organization, and data collection strategies to transform your counseling program so you can maximize your productivity, allowing you to increase your impact, aka serve more students, and get the recognition that you deserve. So let me tell you about it. Let me tell you what you're going to put into action. I'll show you how you can design a daily schedule with buffers and less stress. I'll show you how you can establish a crisis response team protocol. So I started to give you a preview of this, but we'll go more in depth in helping you establish yours. I'll show you how you can streamline your calendar. This way that you can get to all those class lessons, small groups, and individual sessions while still having time for a lunch break and lesson planning. I'll show you how you can create organized caseload and counseling logs. So a lot of you were asking about that counseling log. I'll share all of that with you. I'll show you how you can use data assessment tools like a self-assessment or behavior progress monitoring forms to measure student progress. I'll show you how you can use data collection tools to track the services you've provided. So by looking at your counseling log in your Google Calendar. I'll show you how you can apply self-advocacy communication techniques and how you can create a plan to deal with any resistance that you'll likely encounter. So like I said, it's a 5-module framework. So it starts off with that scheduling module where I help you streamline your schedule. So we'll talk about, implementing buffers so you're not running from place to place, batching your work, doing a time audit. Then I'll share with you my organization skills. So these are things like that counseling log, counseling caseload, organizing your group materials, digital to-do list. Then module 3, my favorite module. This one's all about data collection. So I teach you how to use data tools like a self-assessment, end of the year report, all of those things in detail so you can collect data to advocate for your role, which leads us into module 4, advocating for your role. So I show you how to use what you've learned in the first 3 modules to communicate the importance and the need for your position. In module 5, I teach you strategies for handling pushback and resistance that you may encounter from your admin, parents, teachers, or even yourself. And then finally, we celebrate. So this 5-module framework is valued at $175. And let me tell you about the program. So what does it look like inside Stress-Free School Counseling? So this is my 5-step program framework that I've developed, and it has video modules. So if you like learning from me, if you like how I'm talking to you right now, it's exactly like that. You watch a video of me teaching you a lesson, and then you have a PDF guide where you can follow along and take your own notes. Then you get templates of how to use everything. So someone earlier was asking about like a template for the Caseload spreadsheet. You'll have templates for everything. Then an entire tech how-to library. So you may be thinking, I don't know, some of this feels overwhelming and I'm not very good at doing everything digitally. I'll show you how to do everything with tech walkthroughs. Then I include 14 companion resources. So these are actual resources. Many of these are from my TPT store. So that end of the year report you guys were asking about, that's in there. The caseload spreadsheet, data tracking tools are in there. It's all there for you. So you don't have to buy anything in addition. It's all included. And let me tell you a little more about these resource and tech libraries because these are awesome. So the resource library, like I said, many of these things are in my TPT store. So it's things like email templates. So I'll give you the exact words that you can say to parents and teachers. Simply copy paste and edit for, personalize it. A lesson planning cheat sheet. Many of you said you wanted more time to plan lessons. This will help you. A class lesson teacher sign-up sheet, caseload spreadsheet, counseling logs, student sign-in sheet, Google Forms, end of the year report. You'll get all of these templates, self-assessments, the behavior surveys, needs assessments. I'll give you some meet the counselor activities, some ask infographics to help you advocate for your role, and a sheet on how you can communicate your processes. Then the tech how-to library. So basically all of those resources that you're going to get. Then in the tech library, I'll show you videos, slide by slide, page by page screencast of me doing them. Like click here to insert this. So you have no question about what to do. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. I will be showing you every step of the way what to do. The resource and tech libraries are so helpful. Terry is one of our Stress-Free School Counseling alumni. She said it was so valuable and timely for her. And one of her favorite part was the live examples and resources. She was so thankful for all these strategies. She loved the examples.
And I'm so excited to offer you the opportunity to build community with other counselors. That's why I've created an exclusive, members only, private Facebook group for stress free school counseling members. So, this is a place where you can bounce ideas off of each other, ask any questions that you have. You can talk about, the course module specifically, or just any questions about your counseling program. We already have a lot of other members in there, so I cannot wait for you to join them in your counseling journey. It's such a powerful group. And I know this profession can feel so isolating. Sometimes it feels like we're on our own island, right? Especially if you're the only counselor at your school site, or maybe even the only counselor in your district. I know that's been me before. So if you're in that boat, no worries. We are totally here to support you. So, like I said, the course modules, you're working at your own pace. You're going through them when you get a chance, but this group is always here for you. But let me tell you, I'm not extra special. It's not like I have special training or access to exclusive resources. But I do have a proven framework that has helped transform my counseling program and the counseling program of hundreds of other school counselors. I know this 5-step framework works, guys, and I cannot wait to see it transform your program. But if you're not satisfied, no worries. I do offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. I am so confident that you will see results with my framework. But like I said, if you're not satisfied, we do have a risk-free money-back guarantee. So you get the 5 modules, all the PDFs, the video trainings, the Facebook group, the resource library, the tech library, and all of these included resources. This course is valued at $175. But I want to make it as accessible and as affordable for as many school counselors as possible. That's why I bumped it down to just $72. So you can get started today for just one payment of $72, or we can break it down even smaller. If it's easier for you, just pay $39 today, and you can pay the other $39 in 30 days. So if you're ready to get started with me, go to stressfreeschoolcounseling.com/enroll. But let's talk about what you'll overcome. Stress-free school counseling will help you overcome that feeling of being misunderstood and not valued. That feeling of overwhelmed or feeling isolated. It'll help you overcome when you're feeling stretched too thin or technologically challenged. It'll help you overcome feeling too new to make a difference or too experienced to make a change. So let me give you a quick review of the details. So when you go to stressfreeschoolcounseling.com/enroll, you'll see this page. So scroll on down and then you'll see your payment options. So I have 2 options for you here. You can get started today for just $39. Or if you want to pay in full and save, you can pay that $72 price at one-time payment. So go to stressfreeschoolcounseling.com, you'll scroll down, you'll see here, click on the payment option that works best for you. Then you'll be taken to this order form. Here you'll go ahead and you'll fill out your details, create a little account, and complete your purchase. Then cue the confetti. It's time to celebrate because you have now joined Stress-Free School Counseling. You'll see the congratulations page. Then head over to your inbox to get an email from me telling you all the details. You'll get your login info, quickly log in, and here you'll see our website. So our members area is really cool. This is where you'll see the course modules and you'll see your bonus Facebook group. Head on over to the welcome video. That's where I'll give you everything you need to know to get started right away. And remember, this is work at your own pace, so all 5 modules are inside already. So if you're someone who wants to dive in and just go through all of them, if you're like a binge watcher kind of, go do that. Or you can break it up, do one a month, one a week, however you see fit. It's work at your own pace. But start with that welcome video. Then on the right-hand side there, you'll see links to the Facebook group and a Google form that you can fill out questions and I'll answer. I'll be hopping in the Facebook group periodically, doing some lives to answer any questions you may have. So remember, you have those 2 payment options. Pick the one that works best for you and head over to stressfreeschoolcounseling.com/enroll to get started today.
Now, for those of you that are here tonight, you take time out of your busy schedule to be here for this training. And even though you're busy, and I super appreciate that, but you're here for a reason. So maybe that reason is that you're stretched too thin. Maybe you're constantly putting out fires and you're always behind schedule. Or maybe the reason is you're not seeing enough kids. There doesn't seem to be enough time in the day to help all these kiddos. Or maybe you're overwhelmed with the tech. You want to track data, but collecting and analyzing it just seems like too much to take on. Or maybe you're not valued. Your role's misunderstood and you don't receive recognition. Or maybe you just want more. You want to reach as many students as possible and get the recognition that you deserve. Now, I get it. You may have doubts. You may say, you're right, Rachel. I want to transform my counseling program. I really do. But I don't have time to learn new systems right now. I know you're stretched too thin. That's why I teach you the very beginning of Module 1, first step, time audit. I show you how you can conduct a time audit to shave off some of those time wasters. This way you can dedicate time for the things that matter and prioritize. I want you to meet my friend Needy here. Needy took stress-free school counseling back in January, and she said that she's so much better at utilizing her time and prioritizing her tasks, deciding where she needs to be and when. Or maybe you're thinking, I'm too new. Many of you said you were first-year school counselors. You're not too new for this. Don't wait until you're overwhelmed and on the edge of burnout. Learn the systems you need now. Many of these veteran counselors will tell you they wish they would have done this stuff years ago. See what these first-year school counselors are saying. We have a lot of first-year school counselors inside stress-free school counseling. Chelsea said, I've loved learning from you. You break up everything in super easy to comprehend chunks, and you teach the things they don't teach in grad school. Exactly. I know. I was in grad school. It was an awesome program, but there were some things that you don't learn until you're in there. Marilyn said, I feel like this is a great kickstart for being a new school counselor. I was clueless on how to work with students. Looks like Leanne, Blanca, and Wendy signed up. Amazing. Welcome, ladies. Or maybe you're thinking, I'm not a new counselor. I've been in the game. I've been doing the same thing for the same way for years. But I want you to meet Tracy. Tracy's been a school counselor for over 16 years. But she could say that her systems changed, her scheduling changed, but it was all doable, and that's what encouraged her. We also had kind of a sneak peek. If you listen to Tuesday's podcast episode that's coming out, I interviewed Terry. She's been a counselor for over 25 years. She was running her program all by herself, and she was rocking it, but she was just stretched too thin, and she benefited immensely from stress-free school counseling. 25 years. Oh, it looks like Olivia signed up as well. Welcome, Olivia. Maybe you're thinking, I want to do this. I really do, but I'm worried about the tech. It seems too overwhelming. Don't forget, I got that tech how-to library. I've got you covered. I'll show you step-by-step how to do everything. So if you're ready to transform your counseling program and to say yes to stop putting out fires and yes to seeing more students, this is for you. Let's do this, right? Let's get started today. 2 payments of $39 or save for 1 payment of $72. Go to stressfreeschoolcounseling.com/enroll. Like I said, I'm going to be there to help you every step of the way. Thank you so much for your time and watching this presentation. I hope you found it super helpful, and I can't wait to work with you.